Good morning, and welcome to First Religious Society Unitarian Universalist here in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I'm Alan Seal, and I have the privilege of being your worship associate today. We come together as a church community, online and in person, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our core values are authentic connection, courageous action, love, spirituality, and wonder. Our mission and our invitation to all of you, all of us together, is come as you are. Journey together in love. Act with courage and transform our world. If you're visiting with us today or are here for the first time, a special welcome to you. We're really glad that you're here. And if you're with us online, a special welcome to you as well. You'll find an order of service, a link to the order of service in the email announcing the service or just beneath the Livestream video window. There are lots of wonderful things going on in our church this week, and you'll find them listed in your order of service. But there's one in particular I'll call to your attention today. It's the Foundations of UUism workshop series that will be on Monday evenings from 7 to 7:45 on Zoom. Whether you are a newcomer considering membership, or maybe you've been with us for a long time, still come and discover perhaps a deeper understanding of this faith. Each session will be at least partially interactive, and some of the topics that will be explored are basic Unitarian, Universalist, and Unitarian Universalist histories, how it all came together. What makes UUism a religion, even though we have no unifying creed? What our 7 principles mean and where they came from, and the sources that we look to for truth and meaning. You're welcome to join just one of the workshops or all of them. You can find more information if you go to the home page of our website and scroll down to latest news and events. You can also contact Julie Parker Amory or Cynthia Walsh to learn more. As we move into our worship today, our worship theme this month is wholeness. And we're blessed to have David Livingstone with us in the pulpit today. He's our ministerial intern. And David is going to come to this topic by taking us sailing and inviting us to paradise, just to pique your curiosity a little bit for what's coming. Every Sunday, it is such a blessing to come together. So let's give ourselves to it. Once again, welcome. It's good to be here.
Thank you so much, Alan. Our call to worship this morning is an old favorite of mine. It's a poem by John Masefield titled Sea Fever. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick, and the wind's song, and the white sails shaking, and a gray mist on the sea's face, and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call, and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day, with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant's way of life, to the gull's way, and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a fellow laughing rover, and a quiet sleep, and a sweet dream when the long trick is over. Good morning, my friends. It is good to be together. Please join in saying our chalice lighting words as Lori lights our chalice. The words can be found in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And each week, we also light 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth that we lift up and remember as sacred encounters with our world. There are untold numbers of places on earth that need peace. These 2 we hold especially close in this service and in the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I will say, "To this we respond," inviting you to join together in saying, "Peace, Sul, Shalom." Our first candle this week is lit for Minneapolis, where after a 3-week struggle for much-needed benefits, a teacher's strike is coming to a close. Due to their bargaining efforts, the teachers' union in Minneapolis has been able to negotiate for increased pay for educator support professionals, as well as for protections for educators of color, and for class size caps, and for better access to mental health supports. Despite the blessed and critical role that educators play in all our lives, they are routinely underpaid for their services in this country. Let us see them and recognize them for all that they offer us. And to this we respond, "Peace, Sul, Shalom." Our second candle is lit for the country of Burma, also called Myanmar, where civil war rages in the wake of a military coup since February 1st, 2021. A year after this coup, the country is still racked by bloodshed as more and more people from the cities are forced into conflict against a brutal and genocidal military dictatorship. We pray for Burma and Ukraine and Palestine and all other places on earth that are suffering from violence and from warfare. We pray for peace. And to this we respond, "Peace, Sul, Shalom." Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our opening hymn today, number 1011, "Return Again."
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul. Return again. Return again. Return to the home of your soul.
Thank you. Please join in our affirmation of faith and doxology. The words for both can be found in your order of service. And after we sing the doxology, all of the children here are invited to join Mara Flynn for Young Church. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every tongue.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of our church both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering that is not designated as a pledge goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to help transform our region. The April shared collection will support Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices. This organization provides a safe space for Black and Indigenous and people of color across the Merrimack Valley, a safe space to connect, to share resources, and create systemic change to eliminate prejudice and discrimination in surrounding communities. They plan social and cultural events, as well as provide support to individuals and families in financial need, to local Black and Brown-owned businesses, and more. Please help us support the Black and Brown Voices. If you wish to give online, please use the link in your order of service or in the video description. You can also make a contribution by text message, and of course, you're always welcome to send a check to the church. While our month of giving is now over, our pledge campaign continues, and a link is available in the video description as well. The offering will now be gratefully received.
We are blessed by one another. Each Sunday, we take time to lift up the joys and sorrows of our beloved faith community. Nancy Kidd, our pastoral care associate, will light the candles as I read the joys and sorrows that have been shared with me this week. If you would like to share a joy or sorrow to be read in a service, you can always send an email to betweenus@frsuu.org, or you can always email Reverend Rebecca Bryan directly. You can also always share a joy or a sorrow by writing in this journal, which is back in the vestibule before services begin. So this morning, we light a candle of gratitude on behalf of Carol Kilty, who wishes to express her gratitude and thanks to the congregation for all their thoughtful messages, notes, and hugs. She writes, "Receiving all that was given in caring was comforting at a time when I was in need. I am now one without my other, and it is a big adjustment. Many thanks to you all." We light a candle of gratitude as well from Paula Esty, who writes, "In my desire to keep my testimonial short, last Sunday I skipped over a paragraph of great importance in my life at FRS. For almost 2 years, I have had the privilege of being part of the Sangha that Joyce Haydock leads on Monday nights. I am grateful for her teachings and generosity and have seen such a deepening in my faith and practices as a result. Thank you, dear Joyce." From Paula Esty. And we light a candle asking for prayers from Helen Murguita for her beloved sister-in-law, Joyce Sampson, who lives in Tucson with Helen's brother, Joe. She continues to struggle with multiple physical ailments. And we light one final candle for all the sorrows and all the joys that, although unnamed, are just as important and held in our hearts. Spirit of life, of love, of lasting covenant, let us know that none of us must go forth alone. Let us know that even as we travel through breaking seas, looming storms, and perilous fog banks, that we may rely on each other in our times of grief, and that others may find comfort with us in theirs. Spirit of wisdom, of wonder, and of the waters, let us know that we are all worth caring for. Let us know that our needs matter, and that each of us contains multitudes, like a rich, muddy mountain stream.
The reading today is adapted from a passage in the book Saving Paradise by Rita Nakashima Brock and Rebecca Ann Parker. Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Yet, long ago, in the practice of Western Christianity, paradise was removed from today to some time and place beyond or behind or far ahead. From that moment, paradise became only known to us as someplace far away or in another time, not here and now. This has somehow disconnected us from full engagement with the present, full engagement with right here, right now. It's like we're living in exile from paradise, and we're always in search of it. Some teachings have even become preoccupied with the idea that we're lost. And for many people, that's led to a sense of being anxious for home, for grounding, for meaning, for contact, for communion, and for escape from right here, right now, because it can never measure up to that picture of paradise. What we need today is a spiritual or religious perspective that locates paradise right here, right now, not in some future endpoint or some transcendent realm or a place that we hope to go after death. It's time to recognize that paradise is not withheld from us, it's not closed to us or removed from us. It's here and now if we choose it. And there's the key. It starts with choosing how we define paradise. What if paradise does not mean life without struggle? What if paradise does not mean living free from wrestling with our legacies of injustice and our current forces of evil? What if paradise, in fact, means fully acknowledging that we live in a world where struggle continues, and at the same time, acknowledging that we live on holy ground, that we live in the presence of God, that our bodies and souls are sanctified in the Spirit's anointing, that we are surrounded by the communion of saints. Our spiritual challenge today is to embrace that reality, that paradise is right here, right now, if we choose it. We're standing on holy ground. And on this holy ground, we are surrounded by histories of harm. On this holy ground, forces of evil operate among us and within us. Yet everywhere, the bushes are on fire. Everywhere, there are messages. The risen Christ, love as the creative and sustaining force of life, is on the road with us, walking beside us and within us and among us. The Spirit rises with the wind. The rivers of paradise circle the earth. The fountain of wisdom springs up from the earth on which we stand. Paradise, indeed paradise, can rise up from this holy ground.
Some of you already know this about me, but for those of you who don't, before I joined FRS as your ministerial intern, my previous career was actually as a sailor and as an officer in the Merchant Marine. Specifically, I worked as a deckhand and later on as a mate on board various tall ships on both the east and west coasts of the United States. Tall ships, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, those are traditionally rigged sailing vessels, usually replicas with rigging designs that date from the 17th to the 20th centuries. I'll admit to you today that the transition from sailor to seminarian has sometimes been a little peculiar. For instance, there is little overlap as to what is considered appropriate vocabulary on the quarterdeck to behind the pulpit. But being welcomed into this community here in Newburyport has made that transition much smoother. I was delighted to learn from my first day here onwards that the maritime blood of Newburyport is still alive and flowing. And when my history of tall ship sailing does come up in conversation here, where else would parishioners respond, schooners are fully rigged ships? Where else would I learn while having a cup of coffee with a congregant that she is in fact the author of a book titled The ABCs of Newburyport Maritime History, a book which I am very excited to read to my son, by the way. And where else would I be made to promise on no fewer than 3 separate occasions that I would reference my seafaring experiences in a sermon at some point during my time here? I am happy to say that today I am keeping those promises. I am honored to be able to share with you the first and most important lesson that I learned when I was a very seasick greenhorn out on a ship in the Pacific. Our theme this month is wholeness. And I've learned no better lesson on wholeness than this. Sailors look up. So what does that mean? To be honest with you, I didn't know the first time I heard it. I had asked my first mate on the ship I was serving on, how do you tell the difference between old salts, experienced sailors, and new people like myself? And she said to me very simply, sailors look up. It took me several years to appreciate just how much wisdom is contained in those 3 short words. When that mate told me, sailors look up, she was offering me a crucial piece of insight that I would spend the next 7 years learning how to really appreciate. She was telling me this: the ship is constantly talking to you. A sailor is simply a person who has learned how to listen. You see, when a sailor is looking up, they're not looking at the clouds or getting lost in thought. They're looking and seeing how the foresail is filling and luffing in the wind. They're seeing how the lines, the ropes ease and strain in the seaway, and they're seeing how the wind has slowly clocked a few degrees east over the past hour. When a sailor looks up, they're engaged in the act of listening to their ship and in preparing to respond. The ship tells us what it needs. And the first step in becoming a sailor is simply gaining fluency in that language, that quiet language of wind and rope and wood. It took me time to appreciate the expansiveness of what it means to really listen to your ship, to really look up. The first step, of course, as I've mentioned, was practical, learning how to perceive that subtle shift in the wind that tells me those braces are going to need to be hauled, learning how to feel each and every rope in my hand as I climb aloft in the rigging and feeling for weakness or brittleness that signals needed repairs. But there's a second step in understanding sailors look up. That one took me a lot longer to learn. The second step is learning that caring for the ship doesn't just mean caring for the sails and the ropes and the wood. The second step is learning that to care for the ship, I must care for the crew and for myself. ship, shipmate, self. All three of these are just elements and facets on the same brilliant diamond, and to care for one of them is to care for all of them. To care for the ship is to care for the crew. To care for the crew is to care for myself. To care for myself is to care for the ship, and so on and so forth. Working on a ship, you learn very quickly, the work never seems to stop. Some days I might care for my ship by noticing a spot of rust or a rotten piece of wood that needs attending to. But other days, I can care for my ship by noticing that a crewmate is feeling dejected and just needs someone to talk to about it. And there are days where the call for compassion is coming from within myself. On these days, I can best care for my ship by realizing it is okay to rest. By knowing that it is okay to ask for help from my ship and from my crew. Wholeness is cultivating an understanding that salvation is not a solo sport. It comes from giving and receiving compassion from ourselves and from others. And it comes from knowing there is always work to be done, but that doesn't mean there's no time to rest. Recently, a friend posed to me the following question: what if this is heaven? What if this right here is paradise? That question really stuck with me, like a fly getting tangled up in a spider web. It stayed in my chest for quite a while. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not follow a creed or adhere to any dogma that either confirms or denies the presence of a life or a world that follows this one. We do not claim certainty of knowledge on whether there is a kingdom holier or more wonderful than this earth that waits for us beyond the veil. What we do know is this: the world that we have right here and right now is sacred. It is sacred because it is ours to care for and because it cares for us. This world is not perfect, but it's the one we've got. And it doesn't need to be perfect to be paradise. Paradise is not a place. It is a process. Even when there is suffering, even when there is doubt, and even when there is fear, whenever we engage in the act of caring for our neighbors, we are making this world into paradise. And when we allow ourselves to rest and to ask for help and to let our hurt be tended to by others, that too is making this world into paradise. Caring for our world, our neighbors, and ourselves, that's what it means to look up. It was in thinking about my time on ships that led me to this conclusion. You see, not one of the ships I've worked on has ever been completed. I doubt there's actually a ship out there that's been floating for longer than a week that doesn't have something on it that requires mending, replacing, fixing, or at the very least, a healthy application of duct tape. And yet, when you're out on the water, your ship, incomplete maintenance list and all, is all you've got. And as long as you have a crew of sailors that know how to look up, that ship is enough. 2 years ago, I was sailing south along the Delaware coast on a ship called the Kalmar Nickel out of Wilmington, Delaware. During my watch, at nighttime, the captain and I noticed a storm developing on the horizon. We took a look at the radar, and yes, it confirmed our fears. This thing that was forming right on top of us what is called in meteorology a training storm. A training storm is a storm that develops, and then as it moves out of the way, another storm develops and moves, and another one, until you have a conga line, or a train, if you will, of storms, of big, angry, red blobs on your radar bearing down on you. At this point, we knew that this series of storms was going to be on top of us regardless of what we did. Unfortunately, this is as much a part of sailing as it is a part of life. You can plan all you want, but if you leave your harbor often enough, you're going to get knocked about by some storms. And knocked about we most certainly were. It was a really humbling experience. Water rushed over the deck and the sky lit up. The ship was being pushed one way by the foamy sea and pulled another by the wind. The air was saturated with rain and with spray, and everyone on that ship was soaked to the bone. As we yawed and pitched and surged and rolled in that storm, I realized that even only 20 to 30 miles away from the shore, right now, this ship is my whole world. But I also realized that every little thing I had been doing on this little world over the past year, all the painting and scraping, replacing, patching, teaching, and training, was being repaid in full. The crew had protected their ship, and now their ship would protect them. The Kalmar Nickel is not a 1,000-foot, 20,000-ton cargo ship. She's 160 feet long, 200 to 300 tons, crew of about 24 people, so mid-size. But out there, she was all we had, and she proved she was enough. I learned a lot about my ship that day, and I learned about myself too. I learned that when things go sideways, it is hard to look up. It is hard to listen to your ship and know what to do when the storms are rolling in and the light fades from the horizon. I learned that day there was a lot more I needed to learn. But I also came to understand that I was far from alone up there. Without my captain on deck to help me, I would have made some bad calls. It was my watch after all. I was the one issuing orders, and in the whirling tumult of the storm, I almost sent orders down to our helmsperson steering the ship that would have resulted in our ship being brought broadside, sideways to the waves and to the storm. For those of you who don't sail, that is exactly where you don't want your ship to be. But I wasn't alone up there on the quarterdeck. I did have my captain and the other mates and really the whole ship's crew on my side as we struggled together through it. Learning to look up isn't something we have to do by ourselves. And with the help from the ship and from all my friends, we sailed out of that storm hale and hearty with nothing but a good story to tell about it. That really wouldn't have been the case if not for two things. The first was all of the love and care that our crew had put into our ship over the years. And the second thing was all that help and all that information and wisdom and guidance given to me by my captain and my helmsperson and my bow watch and by my crew. When I was out at sea, all I had was a ship, a crew, and myself, and yet that was everything I needed, even during a storm. Wholeness is knowing that this world is enough. Wholeness is knowing that together we are enough. Wholeness is knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are enough, even during the storms, because you are enough. Each and every one of you is worthy of receiving compassion, and each and every one of you is capable of giving it. You belong here in this world, in this paradise, and all of us are made better by your presence. Together, we are already doing the work of making this world a paradise by listening when others tell us they are hurting, by stretching the limits of our love and widening our circle to bring in those who are suffering, by owning the truth that every single one of us belongs here and that all people deserve peace and justice and love. And we also make this world paradise by caring for ourselves and by being cared for by each other, by knowing our own needs and honoring them, by being able to rest, by being able to say, I hurt and I need help, and then having our suffering seen and cared for by others. Paradise isn't a place, it's a process. Wholeness is looking up, looking out, and looking within. It is knowing that our world speaks to us all the time, telling us its pains and its needs, but we must take the time also to hear our own needs. Wholeness is knowing that you are able to hear and hold all of these needs, even, and this is critical, even if you cannot fix them. I'll close by saying that I am honored to spend this year with you as your ministerial intern. I am humbled to have learned from all of you and to have been cared for and nurtured every single day by this community. The seeds of paradise are right here, and as we move together into spring, I, for one, cannot wait to see what blossoms. Amen.
Wow. Thank you, David. That whole idea that being present with, even when you can't fix it. Being present with, even when you can't fix it. It seems to me that maybe the two most important and maybe even fundamental questions for us in the world today are, who do we choose to be? How do we choose to show up? And who do we choose to be? How do we choose to be with ourselves? And then the second question, who do we choose to be together? How do we choose to be in relationship with one another? So David didn't talk about those two questions so specifically, yet he talked about those two questions the whole time they were there. And I love his words that paradise is not a place. Paradise is a process. A process. A way of living. What if paradise is, in fact, how we choose to live together? How we choose to be together. And all those levels that David talked about with the ship and the crew and himself, the individual. Well, there's the world, and then there's our community, and then there's us. All those together. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a wonderful meditation practice called the loving kindness meditation. And as we draw our service to a close today, we'll do just a short version of that meditation to find our own place in all this that David is inviting us to today, finding our own place in standing on holy ground and letting this paradise rise up here with us. So settle into your own quiet space as we prepare to go back out into the world. Let your eyes be soft, close them if you want. And feel the clothes on your skin. Feel your body on the bench. Might be getting a little hard by now. And maybe you're blessed to even have a cushion underneath you. Life provides those sometimes. Be aware of your breath as it comes in and out, and let your breath bring you home to you. And in the loving kindness meditation, we start with ourselves and then move out through the layers of our relationship to the world, coming home to you, right here, right now, today. How do you choose to be with yourself? What is the honest and compassionate message you actually need to hear from yourself today? And what is it time to invite more of into your life? And then we expand awareness out to your family, your community, your co-workers, the people that you walk with through the days. And how do you choose to be with them? What is the honest and compassionate message they need to hear from you this week? And maybe there's something that you might ask for from them. At least silently invite it, making space to receive as well as to give in that community space. And expanding on out further to the world. And how do you choose to be present with, to hold space for the world this week? Even though you probably can't fix it, but you can hold it in love. You can be clear in intention and focus for how you move in the world. And you, all of us, we can be clear in our intention of the energies that we invite into this world, to surround this world and hold it. And maybe there are actions that are called for, and maybe not. Holding the space. Coming back to David's message, when we're taking care of ourselves, we take care of our community, and we take care of the world. And as we take care of the world, we take care of our community and of ourselves. That cycle, that circle. Take all of this in. Be gentle with yourself and be honest. Be true to yourself. What if we're standing on holy ground? What if paradise can be right here, right now, by how we choose to be together? And so it is. time to go sailing on the blue boat home. It's in your teal hymnal, number 1064. Please stand as you're able and join us in singing.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Let us now join in saying our Unison Benediction. The words are printed in your order of service. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. We are blessed by each other, and we are blessed by those who came before us, and by those who have walked with us. We are here in this world, which has been made better by so many. Friends, thank you for being with me here today, and thank you for continuing the long tradition of people who work to make this world a paradise. Go forth and be blessed. Amen.